All right, breaking news. The Carolina Panthers, actually it's really not even breaking news anymore, happened last night. The Carolina Panthers have decided to trade superstar running back Christian McCaffrey to the San Francisco 49ers. We decided to come in here probably about 20 minutes ago, literally.
Yeah.
Just because I really was tired of people blowing my phone up. You know, the Yankees lost last night, so that in itself pissed me off. And then, like, literally 5 or 10 minutes later after the Yankees lost, this news broke. So y'all can kind of imagine how my night went as far as sleep goes. It wasn't much to be had, transparently. But, yeah, so good morning, good afternoon. How do you feel? I see you have your Christian McCaffrey jersey on. Give the people what they want, man. They keep blowing our phones up, which I understand. It's a responsibility that we've assumed, I guess, in a position that we assume. So how are you feeling this morning, brother?
I mean, last night when the news broke, of course, I was watching the Saints and the Cardinals game, and the funny thing is like, in reference to people blowing the phones up, I texted one of my boys because he's a Saints fan. I'm like, damn, the Cardinals putting that shit on y'all. He didn't want to respond with that message, but he responded with, y'all just traded y'all running back. I'm like, bro, listen. But I already knew the news before then. But either way, me and JJ have been talking about this for, the past couple weeks?
Probably about 2 or 3 weeks.
It's been in the making. We knew that a big piece was going to have to be traded before the trade deadline just so we can get some draft capital. And being that how the team has been looking so far, so we knew we was in a rebuilding process, and we knew one of those people was possibly Christian McCaffrey, or would have been like Christian McCaffrey or a Brian Burns or something like that. So we knew that time was coming. When I first heard the news, JJ called me. This is before any of the sources really broke the news, and I was like, I mean, it didn't really hit me until afterwards. I was like, damn, we really traded him. But at the same time, from a business standpoint, it was expected. So I mean, sad to see him go, but I mean, I'm a fan of the Panthers. I'm a fan of Christian McCaffrey, but I'm a fan of the Panthers first. So if that's the move that we have to make to get better, to see better football, then I'm all for it. So
yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate for the fan base. It's unfortunate for our future, but really, I guess you could say for our future, but maybe not so much. In return, we did get a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th this year, and then a 5th, I want to say, next year, in the draft. So, if you look at it, this is the thing. I read something, and I sent it to you. I don't know if you got a chance to read it.
Oh, yeah.
With the statement from Jay Glazer or whatever.
I did read
about
that,
Sean Payton. The fact of the matter is, at this very moment, we addressed this on the podcast that released Tuesday. If you guys don't know who we are For Panthers Fans Only. I forgot to go over that. This is For Panthers Fans Only. I'm JJ. This is my co-host, Terrence the God. And yeah, like I said, we do our podcast or whatever may have you every week. Releases on Tuesday at 9 a.m. On all DSPs, specifically, Wednesdays. My apologies. We record on Tuesdays. Yeah. My apologies. Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, et cetera, YouTube as well, at the G2S network. But like you said, I mean, we knew this was coming, and it doesn't make it any less hard, I would say, because there were conflicting reports for about the last 4 or 5 days as it pertains to Christian McCaffrey. There were reports that the Buffalo Bills were in heavy on him. Then I saw that they backed out yesterday or 2 days ago. They said that they were in a listening state at that point. And then the 49ers and Rams were one of those were 2 of those teams that kind of popped up on that list probably about 3 days ago in regards to potentially making a move at Christian McCaffrey. But like we said, we've talked about this for the past 2.5 weeks. We kind of had an idea, had an understanding that we were going to get rid of a piece.
Yeah.
And if maybe not just one, maybe 2. Now we saw Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson, of course, is not even in the same breath or on the same tier as Christian McCaffrey as it pertains to value in the grand scheme of things. But, we were prepared. We understood, and then we saw the fallout with Robbie Anderson on the sideline Sunday. So we kind of had an idea that he was going to be moved. Maybe not as soon as he was, but we had an understanding that was probably going to happen. That was a Matt Rule guy. So it came as no surprise to me that he was one of the pieces that got moved early. And then Christian McCaffrey, that was one of the names, that we've talked about over the past couple of weeks consistently, and letting the fan base know that, this is the potential. Now, again, I will reemphasize the point that it hurts, man. It does. It hurts. It's an admission of defeat, really. That's what it is. I mean, it's an admission of defeat. I would assume, not even assume, I know that Dave Tepper and Scott Fitterer and assistant GM Dan Morgan, I know that they realize at this very moment we do not have what it takes to be a competitive football team.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. This is an admission of defeat, and at this point, the only thing that you're trying to do is gain draft capital for whatever head coach you bring in next year. Because with all due respect to Steve Wilks, it's just not going to happen. It's one of those things where, we went into detail, on the potential of him being our head coach in the future. But if you just listen to Dave Tepper's interview or press conference the day after or 2 days after Matt Rule was let go, you realize that Dave Tepper really had no plans of keeping Steve Wilks as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. I think that the question was brought up about Steve Wilks' future following this season. And Dave Tepper said that he would have to have an outstanding year to even be considered for the head coaching job and being solidified in that position. So it was abundantly clear, really, at that moment to me that Dave Tepper and Scott Fitterer had no direction or no, what's the word that I'm looking for? Had no thought of making Steve Wilks the actual official head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He is just an interim head coach for the Carolina Panthers at this time. And he's really, I won't even say he's a scapegoat. He's just a body. Yeah. He's just a body. But with all of that being said, this is the point that we're at right now. It's very, very disappointing as a fan, to see a guy who came in with us. We've seen everything that he's been able to do with the 1,000, season. Just a phenomenal talent, a generational talent, really. From a fan standpoint, again, it hurts. Now, if you look at it as, a fan that's been rocking with the Carolina Panthers and see how we, ruined the career like a Steve Smith and showed our unappreciation for him, a Cam Newton, who we also showed an unappreciation for once we, in the situation that we put him in as far as bringing Matt Rule in, us telling him he's our guy, and then letting him know after everybody's, quarterback position had been filled that, okay, cool, now you can look for a trade partner because now we have no use for you or whatever may have you. So if you look at it from that standpoint, I'm happy for Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. Because as a young guy, you want to do nothing more but to contribute to a championship contending football team. Yeah. So in that regard, based on, the careers that I've seen the Carolina Panthers ruin, in that regard, I'm happy for the guy. I really am, because now you go to San Francisco, you're out there with Debo, you're out there with Shanahan, you're out there with George Kittle, Jimmy G, who, you feel however you feel about him, Debo, Juszczyk. That offense will be explosive, and that move automatically makes the San Francisco 49ers a Super Bowl contending team if they weren't already.
Yeah, I agree. And just to go back to the point of how it feels as a fan, Christian McCaffrey, like, his jersey was the first Carolina jersey that I have ever bought. So, because, like, outside of Cam Newton, Steve Smith, Luke Kuechly, I think that he was one of the players in the Carolina Panthers franchise that brought, like, that sense of excitement to the franchise. Like, absolutely, he's a must-see talent. And when you see most people at the Carolina games, they have on Christian McCaffrey jerseys, or they're coming to see Christian McCaffrey, even opposing teams. So that just goes to show that how great of a talent he is and like what he brings to the organization. And so that's when I had instantly like grew to like liking him, the type player he was like on the field, how he can single-handedly win you football games if you get him the ball. And so, but yeah, like JJ said, I am happy for him because I feel like a lot of times like we misused him just like we did Cam. Like we put him in situations that would allow him to take unnecessary hits. Like, and over time, his body is going to deteriorate. He's already lasted longer than a lot of other running backs have, and we've seen that he's battled many injuries, and I feel like part of that to blame is how we use him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because his utilization percentages is higher than anybody else's on the team or probably anybody else throughout the NFL in terms of how much we use him at running back. And so, yeah, I am happy to see that he can go to a team and contend, being that I feel like outside of the injuries, he has a lot left in the tank, as you can see the few games that he played for us this year.
Yeah.
He was the star on the field, generated most of our yards, most of our points outside of the defense. So that just goes to show that he still has a lot left. And I'm excited to see him go to San Francisco and possibly compete for a Super Bowl because, like JJ said, I do think that our offense that's a dangerous offense. Even if you just consider him and Deebo Samuel, like, how do teams game plan against those two weapons? Mm-hmm. And you can see what Deebo has already been doing to opposing defenses. And now that you add Christian McCaffrey, so it kind of lets Deebo get those one-on-one looks. Or if you gravitate towards Deebo, now Christian McCaffrey is getting those one-on-one looks. So, I mean, yeah, I'm glad we already played the 49ers because I did not want to have the possibility of playing them now.
Absolutely not, bro. Yeah. And it just opens up the creativity. It's going to be something fun to watch in San Francisco. I think, personally, this move makes the 49ers the favorites to come out of the NFC. I really do. I mean, you couple the weapons that they have on offense with the top 5, top 6 defense in the NFL, that is going to be a very, very dangerous team. And then, I mean, didn't San Francisco make it to the championship last year, the NFC championship last year?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and they came up a game short. Yeah, matter of fact, I remember that because I was heavy on the Deebo train last year, for sure. So, yeah, I think that this move, like I said, this move makes the San Francisco 49ers the NFC champion favorites at this very moment. And just as far as the future for the Carolina Panthers, as we wrap up here, I wanted to keep it between 10 and 15 minutes. So, I'll let you get your closing statements out or whatever may have you. But as far as the future for the Carolina Panthers, as far as I see, again, we did get a 2, 3, 4 this year, 5 next year. So that's great because I think up until we made the move with Robbie Anderson, and we got, a 5th last year, or a 5th this upcoming year for him, right? Or was it a 6?
I think it was a 6.
Maybe. Okay, 6 this year and then a 5 next year, whatever may have you, whatever it was. Irregardless, up until that point, we only have 4 draft picks in this year's draft.
Yeah.
And so now you make the deal with Robbie Anderson. That gives you 5, and then you get 3 more this year. So now you're sitting at 8 picks this year. So it's not a terrible position to be in as far as this upcoming draft. So it makes the position a lot more sexy for an offensive guy like an Eric Bieniemy, or whatever direction you want to go in.
Yeah.
Transparently, as long as it's not a college guy, in my opinion, we see how that works, and we saw how that worked, and we saw how that put us in the position that we're sitting in right now, currently.
Yeah.
With an inexperienced guy. So it makes the position sexier as far as head coach goes. So it may give you, it may run the possibility of gaining some solidification as far as that's concerned. But it's going to be very bad. It's going to be very bad. I started the podcast last week off by saying, if you don't have what it takes to be a part of the process or whatever may have you, then it's probably best as a fan if you just find another team now, because it's going to be, it's not going to be pretty. These next, the next 11 games or 12 games, however many games we have remaining, they're going to be absolutely gruesome to watch.
Yeah.
It's going to be terrible to endure. it was unbearable when Christian McCaffrey was on the field. You know, he was the only bright spot in that offense, and now that bright spot that you had is no longer. So it's going to be absolutely egregious to watch, really. It's going to be extremely painful. And I think that the same could be said for next year as well. Because, at this very moment, you're predicted to get the number 1 pick, but you can't just bring a guy in and think that he's going to instantly change things. Honestly, it's just not realistic. You're not going to have a brand new head coach and a brand new quarterback, you know, and all of these other young pieces that are already on this team and just think that automatically you're a deep run playoff team. So it's just not going to happen. So for the next year and a half, it's going to be extremely tough to be a Carolina Panthers fan, honestly. So it's kind of one of those things where you're going to have to embrace the journey, embrace the, you know, all of the bullshit that comes with what we have going on at this very moment. And then hopefully, you know, the top of the mountain feels just as sweet as sour as the next few weeks will be, or the next few months, really, the next year to year and a half will be. So that's really all I have on the topic. Now y'all can stop blowing my phone up and stop blowing my DMs up. You know, so yeah, that's what it is. I mean, Christian McCaffrey no longer a Carolina Panther. Thank you to Christian McCaffrey for the years that, you know, you've given us, for sure. I mean, you were electric. Like I've admitted on this podcast, it took me a while to get on the Christian McCaffrey hype train. But, boy, when I was on it heavy. So, you know, thank you for that, the years that you've given us, you know, special talent. I wish Christian McCaffrey nothing but the best. I hope he goes out and wins a Super Bowl this year. I really do.
Yeah. And just like going off of what JJ said, a lot of people was hitting my phone too, but it was in relation to, that's a terrible trade, or, why would y'all give up y'all's best piece? Like, that made no sense. But like I said earlier, if you look at it from a business standpoint of we're in the process of rebuilding, as we can see. And like JJ said, we had 1 or 3 draft picks going into next year's draft, and they were in like the second, third round, or was they in the second round?
I honestly don't even remember, bro. Because I mean, I know that we gave up a haul for Sam Darnold, so I know that was part of the reason why, you know, we were in the position that we were in. Yeah. Honestly.
And so I don't know what round those picks were, but they wasn't in rounds that could really benefit us and put us in a position to be a winning football team the year after. So, I mean, when you look at it, like, you got to get what you can get now. Sure. We know that Christian McCaffrey, he's battled injuries a lot, and God forbid that he would have got injured this season or gets injured this season down the road, but you got to go ahead and get what you can get. And so,
absolutely.
And when you look at it like that, then, I mean, it wasn't a bad move. Like, now we have some draft capital. Now we have the opportunity to go and be in rebuild mode. Like, you can't be in rebuild mode with no draft capital. And so we have the opportunity now to go and get someone special out of the draft, a couple pieces out of the draft. And so I like that direction that we're heading in. Hey, it's like, if you're going to be in rebuild mode, then tear everything the fuck down. If that's what you got to do, tear everything down. If we're establishing that we're rebuilding, tear everything down. And so I like that move. So the fact that we went and got some draft picks, hey, that's great. And so, I like that move by the front office. And I think that, and like JJ said, it's going to be a tough couple games like this season and next season. I've already come to terms with that it probably won't be as fun watching the Panthers the rest of this year and next year. But, I mean, it's a process. And like you said, if you're not ready to buy into the process, then, it's best that you find another team. That goes for the fans. That goes for the players. Because, I mean, it's going to be a journey. But at the end of the journey, the wait is going to be worthwhile. So, yeah, I'm excited with the direction that the team is going in. And we expected this. So, I mean, it is what it is. And, we want to thank Christian McCaffrey for the years that he did give to Carolina. One of the most exciting players that I've ever seen play in person. And so,
sure.
And so we want to thank him for that. And I do hope he goes and wins a Super Bowl. I feel like he's a player that deserves that. And so I'm happy for him.
Most definitely. Well, we appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, this isn't our regular scheduled programming or whatever may have you. But if you like what you saw, like what you hear, tune in every week. every Wednesday, 9 a.m., Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, etc. And then YouTube, we typically release the video a day after.
Yep.
So for Panthers fans only, I'm JJ.
I'm Terrence, your guy.
Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.